Hello, welcome back to the Mobile Motorbike Mechanic channel. I'm Steve. Today we're heading off to work on a, what was it, Fireblade, Urban Tiger. Today we've got to swap the clutch on it. So we'll see you when we get there. Right folks, so here we are with the Urban Tiger Fireblade. Very, very nice motorcycle. So today we're going to be changing the clutch on this one. We also need to do an air filter and some spark plug changes as well, but we'll show you that later on. The main issue today is getting this clutch changed out. So the owner, he gets it up to about 7,000 RPM and the clutch starts to slip. We've checked the clutch cable. There is a bit of play in the clutch cable. We noticed there was yeah, but it's still slipping, so we'll chuck a new clutch in it for him. Yeah, and then we'll get that done now. Okay, so fairings are gone, or lower fairings anyway. So this is the clutch cover here. So we've got to take off all these 8mm bolts all the way around. Boom, 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 boom. Pop the cover off, get into the clutch. So what we'll do first is we'll slacken off the clutch cable, undo all the bolts, get it off. Little trick if you want to keep all the oil obviously in the sump. So that's the reason why we haven't got it on a paddock stand today. So hopefully the oil will drain off over that way, so then we don't need to replace all of the oil, because this bike has literally just had an oil and filter service. So we're just going to try and save a bit of time, bit of hassle, bit of money for the customer, and not replace the oil on this one. Okay. Oh. Tuck that behind there just to keep it from twanging into my face. Ooh. Where was that one so tight? There we go, now they're all loosened off. We can get the lazy machine to do it. The reason I don't use this immediately is if any of them start to tighten up or feel like particularly difficult coming out, you don't want to snap them. So go steady. Also, you'll notice different lengths on the bolts. So as they come out, you might want to start making the pattern of this on the floor, just so you know which bolt goes in which hole. There. Another good way of doing it is, if you've got a piece of paper, you can draw out the shape of that, put the holes in it, and then just slot each one of these bolts into that hole on the piece of paper, and then you know exactly which bolts come out of which hole. So that's all the bolts out. Now we've just got to get this cover off. Before I get this cover off, I'm just going to put a drip tray underneath to catch any oil. It's starting to come off. It'll be held on the dowels. What you can do is on these little tabs here, there's one there, there's one here, there's one here. This is where you can actually grab the case and start to pull it. And if you're very, very, very careful, emphasis on the very there, you can lever on these tabs, but for God's sake, don't go hard on them, or else you will break the case. and you don't want to do that. There we go, you see. Just gently, gently, gently keep wiggling it back and forth. There's normally no real reason to pull on the case with anything more than just a pair of hands. And there we go. So what we need to do is get all of this gasket off here. We need to get all of this gasket off here, clean all that up, ready to go back together again. But first of all, we need to undo these 5 and get this clutch pack apart. So in a crisscross pattern, so we're going to start 1, crisscross over to 2, 3, 4, 5. So sorry, not crisscross, star, isn't it? Dum 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 dum. We're just going to gradually undo each one of them. And there's one. Little shock to start them off with. And number 5. Alright, and then we're going to switch to the lazy machine. We're just going to do a bit at a time, going in the same pattern in that star. So those are the springs out. Now we need to take the plate out, or the face off this. There we go. I'll just pop him in the case for the time being. Now if you zoom in on here, you'll notice the first plate, the first disc on the clutch pack is on these sort of teeth of the clutch basket, and all the other plates are on these teeth of the clutch basket. So just as you take it apart, just make a note of where they go, because some are like that, some are all on the same, some are stepped. So just make a note of it. Also, as you're taking these apart, when you take one off, lay it down, take the next one off with the steel in the middle, lay it down, and that way when you pick the pack up you can see exactly which plate went where, because some plates might be different. I'll show you in a minute once we get all this apart. Right, little pick to go in down the side, and you can grab the plates and start pulling them out. Can't get it. There we go, that's got it. So that's the clutch all apart. That's your clutch pack there. Now, you might be able to see, or you might not be able to see, that ring there. See right in the back of the clutch? So that's your anti-chatter ring. Now because that's there, the first plate in on this is a different size to all the other disc plates, all the other fibre plates in this clutch. So you'll see the inside, the internal size of that one is, that one's bigger than that one. So that's the one that goes in first. A lot of people don't spot that, and they just chuck them in, don't realise there's 2 different sizes, but there is 2 different sizes. If you don't do that, you won't have a clutch. Okay, so we bought an EBC clutch pack off wherever it was, can't remember. And all we're going to do is open this pack up and show you what's inside. So we've got a set of EBC clutch springs. So these springs will get replaced with these springs. We've got the actual discs themselves, which is what we're going to be replacing, and we've got a brand new gasket, cover gasket to go over there. So if we open this one up, there you go, nothing else in the box. So you've got a set of discs, okay, and of course everybody just goes, oh yeah, disc, chuck them in, but we're looking for that one that's smaller than all the others. There it is. and that's the one that's going in first. A lot of people sort of soak these overnight in oil and do this, that and the other. I tend not to. I just soak them in oil, but I'm not going to soak them overnight. I'll just put oil on them because it's a wet clutch. So we'll just get a bit of spare engine oil. We'll give them a bit of a wipe to make sure that they are oiled, and then we'll start building the new clutch pack up. Okay, so a bit of engine oil, and what we'll do is we'll just run a bit over each of these plates. Like so, you don't need much, just make sure that they're wet. I'm sure the people of the internet will be telling me off for doing this, but it's the way I do it. So we've got the anti-chatter ring in there. We're ready for the first plate, which is, we've checked, and it is the smaller one, the thinner one out of all these. So just line it up, those fingers on the outside, and just slide it home. And what you're looking for inside there is to make sure that chatter ring isn't behind that plate. Make sure it's next to that plate all the way around, and that one is. That's fine. So then that's the old one. Put that to one side. We're refitting the old steels, so the next steel goes in. Then you get your next new plate, bit of oil, lubricate it, and carry on until the clutch is built. Okay, so we're on to the last fibre plate. So rather than it going in with all the others, it goes round to the next load of teeth. Exactly as it came out. There we go. So that's the clutch pack rebuilt. So the last thing to do now is refit the outer. Now, this doesn't just go on and you tighten it down. You see there's little teeth or little cutouts here. So these little cutouts need to line up with these here on the clutch basket. Okay. So that's that lined up, lovely. And now we can fit the new springs. Right. Sometimes in these kits, yeah, like this one, they've supplied 6 springs. It's just because it's a universal kit for a clutch. So sometimes you might have 4, sometimes you have 5, sometimes you have 6. We'll pop all those on there. That one can go in the box. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's that done. Being new springs, they're quite tight. There's a surprise. So we're not going to use the machine. We just want to hand start them because you definitely don't want these cross-threaded. So hand start each one of them, make sure we're all good. Of course, everything's oily and slippery. There we go. Okay. So they are started. So what we can do now is use our machine just to run those in. And same as when we took it off, we'll just go in the star pattern, winding each one in a little bit at a time. That's all those wound in. So same as when we took it off, we'll just give each one a little nip just to make sure it ain't going to come undone. There we go. That's it. So now we just need to get this case back on, but first things first, we need to clean up this gasket surface. You'll see there are a couple of dowels. There's one in that and there's one just there. So we'll take those out, keep them safe, and then that will allow us to just clean up this gasket surface without that dowel being in the way. Right then, so after what seems like hours, we've managed to get all of the old gasket removed. So now what we're going to do is pop the dowels in on the motor. There's one there and one there, and we can then fit the new gasket, and those dowels will help hold the gasket in place. Just like that. There we go. And that holds everything in place whilst we fit the cover back on. Now the cover, I don't know if you notice inside there, that's the clutch actuation arm. And you see there's like a little cutout. So that cutout needs to fit around that bobbin and it will pull on that bobbin. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when that goes in, it's in the right place. So we're going to fit it, and then as it goes in, that arm should turn around as it pushes up against that bobbin. So we'll just make sure that that's in the right place, ready to go. Gasket's on. Oh, and the only other thing is there's this oil pressure sensor wire here. You just got to be very careful that we don't trap that. So let's pop it on. Let's see. Make sure that wire's not caught. And that feels correct. Yeah, okay. So that wire's not trapped. That's good. And we're ready to put the bolts on. So we just go around, popping them all back in again. We just want to start them all off with our fingers. Don't go too mad with it, just snug them down, finger tight. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that that case gets pulled on evenly. So if you do all these up really tight and these haven't been done up, you might twist the case and break it. So just nice and steady. It's getting in the way of the clutch arm. Still feels good. Right, there we go. So now we're just going to go around and give them all a little nip up, just to make sure that they're all tight. There we go. So it's just the clutch cable now left to put back on. Right, that's that done. And pop the dipstick back in again. We haven't lost any oil out of the motor, which is what we wanted to do. That's good. So the last thing we need to do is set the cable and just test this clutch. So we'll test the clutch first, then we'll set the cable. Now, there's a hell of a lot of pressure in that clutch and the clutch basket and the springs and everything. If you just suddenly go and grab a handful of clutch now and there's something wrong in there, you're going to start breaking things. So for the first time you use the clutch, you want to be quite careful about how you use it. Just bring it up nice and gentle and then give it a good squeeze. You'll then feel if anything's starting to bind or if anything's starting to go wrong, then you won't snap anything. So just looking to make sure the actuation's right. Just gonna, he's pretty stiff, but he seems to be there. Okay, so I'll clear out a bit of space. Hang on a minute. Clear a few tools away. All right. So we're just going to pop the bike into gear. There we go. I'm just going to pull the clutch in. There you go. Clutch is working. Okay. Let the clutch out. Yeah. Back into neutral again. Okay. Just doesn't feel very good. I'm not happy with it. Okay, so went to check the clutch and it just didn't feel right. Didn't feel right at all. It was clutch was operating, but it just didn't feel right. So what I've done is I've removed the uprated clutch springs because I felt they were too long, actually physically too long. And what I think they were doing is when the clutch was actuating, it was all pushing together and there isn't enough room for this spring to compress fully because it's slightly longer and a slightly fatter spring. So we've removed those, put the original springs back in again, but obviously with the new clutch plates, and the clutch feels so much better, so much good, so much nicer. So we'll go with that. So we'll adjust the clutch cable now, and I'll show you how to do that. Right. So what we want to do is we want to get this clutch cable as far forward as possible. I think this clutch cable's pretty stretched as well because we're like all the way down the bottom end of the adjuster, but we'll do that. So There we go, that's that one done up. So we've got a bit of slack in there, as you can see. Not much, but a bit. So we'll go up to the top end now. So up here, what we want, keep tension on that. We want a couple of mil play. So that's a little bit too much. That's almost there. There we go, that's perfect. Let me just lock it off. So we just check the clutch action. That's so much better than what it was. Yeah, that's bob on. Okay, so we'll get the fairings back on again and then we can call this one done. Right, so that's the clutch done on this one. We're happy with all that. That's all feeling perfect. So what we need to do to finish off this one is just do the air filter and the spark plugs. So we'll crack on with that now. On this bike, similar to some other bikes, you actually have to remove the fuel tap before you can take the tank off. So make sure the fuel tap is in the off position, and then you can undo the screw in the middle. I suppose it's not the fuel tap, it's the fuel tap extension really. Once you undo the screw in the middle, you should be able to pull the fuel tap off. It's a really long screw. There we go. And that doesn't hit the frame when you go to take the tank off. But obviously make sure that the fuel is in the off position before you take that off, because then if you disconnect the fuel pipes, it's going to chuck fuel everywhere. So regular viewers will know of our always handy little blocks of wood. Let me just pull the tank up and put them onto the box of wood. That's the middle of the tank gone. There we go. Customers helped us out here by filling the fuel tank before we've come to do it. There we go, it's broken the seal. There we go. Let's come around that side and pull the fuel tap off. Ow. That's my hair. Let's just get a cloth to catch the drips. There we go. Pop one of these mats. There. Put the tank on it. Boo. There she blows. Right, now, before we go any further, I need to find the little metal thing that came out of the middle of the fuel tank. Any ideas? Got it. I'll put that over there with the fuel tank. Right, so now we can get the airbox off, then we can get into the spark plugs. Right, so we'll get this airbox off. It's easy enough. Well then, Just got to take off the back here. There's a little 8mm on this one. Take it and do that one. It's just turning. Right, it ain't coming off. Oh, this is getting worse by the day. Okay, he's not going to come off. That should just undo, but he won't undo. Right, we'll just pull the airbox off. There we go. Okay. So, unfortunately, there's been a bit of a bodge on this airbox. And you can see cable ties used to hold the airbox on rather than the proper clips. So, not the best, but we'll tell the customer about that and then he can make a decision as to whether or not he wants to replace those. They should be proper clamps. But yeah, a bit of a bodge. And also this 8mm in the back of the airbox here is seized in. So can't get that undone. So we've just had to take the airbox off and then undo that pipe. Makes it a bit more awkward, but we can still do it. Anyway, onwards. Now we've got the airbox out of the way, just to make sure that nothing falls into the carburetors. I'm just going to pop a cloth over the top of those before we start taking anything else apart, because you don't want anything falling in them. And now we can get the coils out of the way, get this little plastic tray out of the way, and we can get to the spark plugs. Hey. CR9 EH9, they're the correct plugs, which is good news. Right, let's get the rest of them out. Ta-da! Four. Right, so 4 brand new plugs to go in, same as what we took out, CR9 EH9. So we'll get them fitted. Right, that's all the spark plugs done. So what we'll do is we'll get this plastic cover refitted, get the coils back in again, and then we can get the airbox back on. I'll get the coils in now. Whew. Right, airbox back on. So with the airbox fitted, we can now undo the screws and replace the air filter. You can normally tell how well a bike's been looked after by the air filter. So we're about to find out. Let's have a look. Not too bad. Definitely not the worst. So yeah, not too bad at all. And it is a genuine Honda part as well. So I wonder how long that's been in there. We don't know. But we're going to get it changed anyway. Right, here's our brand new replacement. So as you can see from the old one that's gone out, it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit tidier. Again, this is a high flow part. So we like high flow stuff. High flow parts go in here. Let's do some pipes back up again. It's just the 3 pipes on this one, which is Pretty straightforward. Alright. It appears to have a pube. So it's just your 2 fuel tank overflows and your main fuel feed on this one. Nice and straightforward. Right, we're on the home stretch now. Go. Refit our fuel tap. Turn the fuel on, check for leaks. We have no leaks. So we're just going to go for a fire up, make sure it runs. That runs, so we'll get the seat back on it. Right folks, that's this one all done. So we've done the clutch, done the air filter, and we've done the spark plugs. So there we go, she's absolutely on the button. So remember to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next video.